Hey Ryan, it's Chris. You're listening to the Dad Regime podcast. We are trialing some new technology for this podcast. We're recording remotely, three of us in three different places. You might hear some sound issues, which we're trying to work through. We ended up thinking that this sounded pretty good. We know there's some things we need to fix up for next time. You might also hear us working through some of those sound issues over the course of the podcast. Hey, one of the main reasons why I wanted to get a podcast out during this time is to support our favorite Sunshine Coast artist, Dorah Jacson. Like most young artists, she's had her gigs cancelled, so we really want everyone to get out and support her by going to her Bandcamp page. There you can purchase her music, you can purchase her merchandise. She's got some terrific t-shirts. I am the proud owner of 2 Dorah Jacson t-shirts. Please check it out. Please support her. We love everything that she does, and of course she's been a big supporter of ours too. And here is her latest single, Lurking. Check out the show notes for links to the music video and to her Bandcamp page. Here it is, Dorah Jacson, Lurking.
Yeah, there's people trying to get to me. They think they can just grab a hold of me. I don't like it. Tell them go away. I don't get it. They just can't do that to me. I don't get it. They just can't do that to me. What happened to decency? They're just lurking creepily. What happened to decency? They're just lurking creepily. They're just lurking creepily. I should know so much better than to hope for good intentions. Gotta always keep up my guard. At least I can teach them a lesson. At least I can teach them a lesson. What happened to decency? They're just lurking creepily. What happened to decency? They're just lurking creepily. They're just lurking creepily. They're just lurking. They're just They're just lurking. They're just lurking. They're just lurking.
All right, you ready? Question 1. Pete,
Yes.
Will we see Australian sport this year?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think that the sporting bodies will do absolutely everything in their powers to make something happen. They're all just spinning on their wheels at the moment, and I reckon that the second there is a glimpse of hope or a glimmer of hope that they'll be able to run their sporting events, they will do so. I just have this September thing in my head that come September, come cricket season, and that's when usually the footy's final season is. I reckon they're going to try and open it all up. I reckon that's when it's all going to happen. I am disappointed that they haven't been a little bit more creative in like being able to provide some sport in some way in terms of playing replays or some sort of gamification for people at home and self-isolation. Like I know that my son Marley and we'd be quite happy to watch a game of football from 1985 without knowing what the result's going to be. I actually think that there would be an awesome thing that could happen where I reckon it could be a great social media thing where people vote for Fox Sports or KO or whatever it is. They vote a season, a sport, a season, and a year. Or, I guess that's the same as the season. So, like, I'd love to watch the blah, blah, blah season from 1985, like a certain sport from 1985. And then
The whole season.
And then they just play the whole season. Yeah, like because there's all these platforms available, but they're just not being active except for just talking about the best player that ever was or the best this, the best that. I'd be quite happy to watch another season from another era and not look at the results and then sort of have some, I don't know, it's a bit hard to do, but the idea isn't completely fleshed out.
You could almost...
So September. Your answer is yes.
You reckon September? I reckon September they're going to try and do something. Like the AFL's already looking at trying to get them all into some quarantine situation so they can play games against each other.
Playing out in... really, somewhere north, with Sundays or something like that. You're going to put them all on an island and play somewhere. No, seriously, there's some suggestion that they're going to take them all somewhere like Rockhampton, not for audiences, just to have somewhere isolated that they can all be, and then just play the game on some random oval and televise it. And
then they can get their sponsorship dollars. People would itch and scratch for it. I don't care if they're AFL supporters or not. They would watch it.
What do you think, Joel?
Well, that was a very long-winded answer from and you guys seem to be cut.
Your mic is terrible.
Oh, right, because you guys are cutting out. It sounded like I lost Pete a few times.
Oh, maybe it's your internet.
Oh, yeah,
it might be your connection.
My internet is pretty horrible. Let me just...
How's your blue cord going?
I'm Wi-Fiing. Do we have...
Now you're better.
It sounds better now, but it was terrible just for that little bit of time there.
So, Joel, what do you think?
Are we going to see sport this year? Yes, we are. You're damn sure that we'll be seeing sport because of all of the innovation that you've just spoken about. NRL's talking about Moreton Bay. I can't see why you couldn't look at, like a 20-day quarantine where you get the two teams that are about to play to quarantine for 20 days at the whatever field or training facility and then have them play a game, record it, get the next guys on a different place. It'd be a slow going, but you could totally do it. And quite into Pete's idea. I think you could watch, if you talk about a season, imagine in one weekend you never used to be able to keep up with all of the games because they weren't televised. You could literally have all of the games from week one back to back in a day, and then the next day, week two.
Oh, yeah.
Like you could binge a season. You could probably do a season in a couple of weeks.
So Chris, if you could
Yep.
pick a sport and a season that you think would be worthy of being replayed and people would watch it, what's the sport, what's the season, and why?
Can I give you two answers?
Sure.
One of them is going to be
One
Chicago Bulls.
one to directly answer your question. So the 98 Bulls season, which is Jordan's most underrated year. Karl Malone was MVP, which was a complete back-to-back MVP, which was a joke. Jordan carried the team, was just as historic as ever, and as a 36-year-old, was just insanely good and is just forgotten because it was just another Bulls victory. But I can't watch sport that I already know the result from.
Yeah, see, that's the trick, isn't
See,
it?
I can't do it. I just can't do it. And that's why, like, during the basketball season, I switch off from social media during the day because I know I'm going to go home and watch a game at night. And even if I don't watch the whole game, if I know what's happened, that's it. I'm out. I'm done. I don't even want results like when Steph Curry's going off for 10 threes in a game. I don't even want to know that. I want to just watch that organically. I can't know. It changes everything for me.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be tuning into to your season replay. But if I could pick one, that would be the one.
So this then becomes a thing where you pick it for others.
Yeah.
What's it called? It's a philanthropic. It's a philanthropic choice then.
Social good. Yeah.
What about you, Joel? Can you think of a season and a sport and a season that you'd want to watch again?
Not really, no.
Oh, you know.
So, Chris, what's your next question?
Next question. Let me get my notes. All right. In 10 years' time, what will we still be feeling from the COVID-19 pandemic fallout?
Joel?
Do you know what? I think it'll change people forever in terms of their hygiene practices. And for the better. Someone was telling me a study. Now they'd say that 99% of statistics are made up on the spot. So this could be one of those things, but it makes a lot of sense. They were talking about the death rate of women giving birth, and it changed once when doctors did something. I can't remember what it was, but they it wasn't. It was.
You just imagine the conference of doctors going, so it turns out we should be doing something.
Right, so they did a major procedural change, and there was a slight change in the death rate, right, but not significant. And then they said it completely 10 years later, the death rate completely changed, and what had actually changed was women became doctors. And so someone else looked into at that particular time, there were women that were becoming surgeons or whatever, and what they noticed was that women washed their hands and the male doctors didn't. That was the key to women surviving birth, giving was if their fucking doctor washed their hands or not. So.
Anyone who's been to a male public toilet can vouch for the lack of hand washing that happens from a large section of our.
I reckon that there's going to be a whole bunch of new technology that comes out to replace things that just seem ordinary at the moment. To give you an example, I've got a feeling that in 10 years' time, door handles won't be door handles. Like there'll be, those things that everybody has to touch all the time. I've got a feeling that those things may not be there when in a public space.
Or there'll be kickable door handles.
What's that?
or they'll become kickable door handles. So everyone will have to
well, that's
become
part of the
kung
technology
fu.
change.
As you walk in, you just kick the door.
Like light switches won't be light switches. And when you look at things like, I think that money's gone. I think that's it. Money's done. I think we're going to be down to card only stuff. How do you come back from, we're already at the cusp of, money not changing hands except via card or something like that. I think that thumbprint technology is pretty much out the window. And we're coming back to more possibly retina scanning and all that sort of stuff. I reckon that is going to be a shift. I think that in Australia, I think we're going to start seeing more people consistently, particularly in cosmopolitan places, wearing the masks, wearing the gloves beyond the pandemic. Let's just call it that. The idea that when I went to Japan January last year, going onto a what do they call it there? The subway, say, or it's not the subway, but like on the trains that run throughout Tokyo. They're all. When was the last time they had an outbreak and they're still wearing the masks? Was it SARS or?
Well, they seem to.
Or,
Japan seems to be the center of a lot of pandemics, doesn't it? Like they've had the MERS and SARS and H1N1. Like it seems to hit Japan hard for some reason, whether it's the close proximity of the population or something. But that was the one I thought of too when I was looking at that question, was that social acceptance of wearing masks, and perhaps the end of the handshake as the most common greeting
very much so.
in Western culture too.
I think that we're actually going to have a real turn back towards homegrown stuff. The organic movement's been going on for so long, but I actually think that we're in Australia we'll come back to more manufacturing. I think that people will be wanting to make their own things. I think there's a whole bunch of skills that are going to come out of this. Especially if things continue to become less easy to get, or people might start going, do you know what? I don't want to buy things from particular countries because that's where it came from. I think there might be some stigma. Because I was thinking to myself, like, I can't remember the last time I darned a sock. Right? Like, I can't remember ever darning a sock. I can't remember ever sewing a button on something. Like, but I think that those things, particularly with the economic pressures that might come, there's a possibility that those things may become more prevalent with people, and they might become a little bit more handy with some of those old school skills. Does that make sense? Like growing your own food. Who hasn't thought about going out and buying their own chickens recently? Not me, but
I have, and then I got talked out of it because of snakes.
Oh, see, my partner, she grew up having goats, and she's talking about like, maybe we should get a few pet goats. This hasn't been because of the coronavirus stuff. She's actually said maybe we should get some goats because she loves goats, and you can get so much from a goat. Farm girl being all that. but that might be something that you might see a transformation in what actually happens in people's gardens. Like you might start to see a lot more fruit trees rather than pretty artificial, not artificial, but pretty
less lawn, more vegetable garden.
You know how much I love that because I hate mowing. less aesthetically pleasing things, more productive things. It makes sense, and I think that there's lots of people that who are in that I don't want to panic buy, but maybe I should be in this realm of sowing my own crops kind of situation. I don't know. You asked a question. 10 years time, Jesus Christ. Hey, I saw something funny today. It was like,
That's question 3.
So I saw something funny today. It was like a new meme that came out. Well, a new meme to me. And it was like, this is what I thought the apocalypse would look like. And then there's what I would look like in the apocalypse. And there was a picture of Mad Max. And to the right, it was like, but this is what I actually look like. And it was the Big Lebowski on the other side. And I was like, yeah, I gather that. That's me altogether.
People might have more time for gardening and the DIY stuff because the 4-day work week might become par for the course.
Yeah.
Slower economy, so return to work is part-time. Who knows whether returning to full-time work is actually in a lot of people's future.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah.
That was a very somber moment, yes.
Making ends meet.
Yeah, but even from a corporate point of view, if they see productivity, that curve hits a point where 4 days is the peak, in the returning to normality, well, why pay someone for the 5th day? Perhaps the 4-day working week is just what everyone will eventually be a part of. Mm.
Well, you talk about making ends meet. Today, and also learning new skills, I knew that having just bought a ute, I'd have to relearn how to tie knots because
yes.
you can't own a ute and not know how to tie knots.
I've got a rule for you, Joel. If you can't tie knots, tie lots.
No, I want to be able to tie good knots, just a good clove hitch.
A bowline.
Yeah, the bowline. I just actually learnt that today. But you know what else I learnt? The term bitter end.
What's that?
Have you ever heard in rope world the bitter end?
The bitter end.
No. I love etymology. I love origins, right? And so often sayings come from somewhere. I would put money on it that the bitter end actually comes from talking about rope, and they use it to describe basically the end of the rope.
Not the end of life?
Not the end of life. Not to the
that doesn't sound so bitter. Not when you've tied a knot and you've run out of rope. the bitter end of life. That means bugger all.
You've run out. You've got to the end. Anyway, this bloke used it in a YouTube clip when he was actually showing me how to make a running bowline because I wanted to tie something high to one of my trees, and I was imagining that I was going to tie the other end to my toe ball so that when I cut it, because I'm only a year and a half into chainsawing trees down, and in that time I have cut many trees.
How many fences? How many fences have you taken down?
Well, this is the thing. This particular tree, and basically the whole fence line. I've got trees that are at least 5 meters high. The fence line sits right. The neighbor's house is right next to that fence line, which is basically a tree line, and all of these trees need to be pulled back. They're way too high, and they basically just dump leaves in this guy's gutter, and we're all on tank water, so it's really inconvenient. But I'm looking at each of these trees going, if I cut any of these and they fall the wrong way, I'll fucking just destroy this guy's house. So
you'd rather destroy your ute by pulling a tree down on top of your ute than...
Well, I've got enough rope to make sure that doesn't happen, but I tied it all up. I'm looking there. The boys were busy, and that's the other thing. I'm at home alone with 2 kids under 6, and I'm thinking about cutting a tree down while they're like playing. And I'm up in the tree. I've tied it off, and I'm like, this is perfect. It's already leaning the right way. If I just cut it here, it can't fall backwards because the rope's got it.
What could possibly go wrong?
Got this. And then I looked over at the kids, looked back at it, and just thought, yeah, probably for another time. So I untied the rope and walked away.
So, Chris, when you said that you were going to ask a question, it was like going to be. Did you think? Because this is taking 10 minutes a question.
Oh shit! You said quick fire, didn't you?
Yeah, we're not quick fire.
I'm more of a slow burner.
You know,
This works.
You know, I think that that at least one of us has had more than one drink tonight, and I think that's oh.
All right, next question. We're gonna change the pace. We're gonna change the topic. It won't be quite so heavy. All right. Is Tiger King overrated? Pete.
Haven't seen it.
Without spoilers. Oh, you haven't seen it?
Haven't seen it. Mrs. has been watching it. I'm going to give it a go, but I haven't got to it yet. I've been watching something else, which is probably completely underrated. So I was going to bring that up later on if we were doing what's on your playlist.
Okay, Husey, overrated?
I don't think so. I'm 2 or 3 episodes in with Sandy. We rarely find stuff that we can actually watch together, and this is one we decided to have a crack at. And there's so many moments where we look at each other with our eyes wide open. Like you're watching the TV and you turn to the other person and she turns to me. And it's like, is this for real? Are these people real? It's such Americana. I love that aspect of just how crazy things can be in America. So I'm yet to get into any of the deeper storylines, but it's fascinating to say the least.
Have you watched it, Chris?
I'm about halfway through too.
Right. Okay. I'll get onto it tonight.
Yeah, get onto it. It's worth watching. I've just so far been waiting for the everyone I know who's seen it has just said, "Oh, you have to see it. You have to see it. You have to see it." It's amazing. It's incredible. These people, and I'm just like, this is just Jerry Springer from 1992. I don't know. I'm yet to be really taken. Like, they are ridiculous. It is an insane story. Yeah,
the human behavior aspect for me.
I hope it gets better.
Is really interesting. I love watching human behavior, and the tiger guys are all predators. They are all seem to prey on young women or young men, and hold power over them, over many people. I'm finding that fascinating, just the human behavior aspects of it.
Yeah. All right, next question.
Just before you say next question, on my screen.
No, I said next question.
You're too slow, Pete.
You'll have to save your
on my
interruption for the next question.
No, but the sound wave bars on my screen are way smaller than what yours are.
It's not about size, Pete. It's about how
I told you.
One thing from Tiger King is that size doesn't matter.
Okay, all right. I'm just letting you know now because it's glaringly obvious to me.
Pete, looking at mine are half the size of yours on my screen,
okay.
And Chris's. So.
Okay, cool. Because Chris's are really big, but
it's not just a rumor.
Bro, your sound waves are huge.
So, Chris, what's on your playlist?
Oh, I'm giving Dorah Jacson a shout out. She released Lurking, I reckon 3 weeks ago, her newest single. And really, really want to try and get her some support because, of course, as a young artist, all her gigs are dried up. So the only income she's got is through her Bandcamp site, selling her merch.
Oh.
Mainly her merch. She's got some T-shirts and some stuff. She's also diving into jewelry making, which I think she's got linked up there too. So check out. I'll link her website in the show notes. Make sure you check her out and try and support her because we love her and everything she's done for us too. So yeah, Lurking. We'll play it now. Now, when we're finished, we'll play it.
Okay, cool.
At the end, yeah. Pete, what's on your playlist?
Okay, so before I referred to this show that I've been watching, have you guys caught hold of Happy?
No.
Happy.
On Netflix, there's this show called Happy, right? It's based on a comic, not a comic, what's it called when they do those extended comics? Oh, for God's sake.
Graphic novel?
A graphic novel, yes. A graphic novel. Yeah.
It's a comic strip for adults.
Comic strip for adults. Happy, right? So the basic part of it is, right, is that there's this ex-cop who's gone downhill. He was the best cop in town. He's gone downhill, and all of a sudden, an imaginary friend pops up in his face. And the imaginary friend has come from his kidnapped daughter's... she's come from his kidnapped daughter and is asking him to save her. And it's an animated unicorn kind of thing. And the premise sounds really shit, right? It really does. But you got to watch it. It's hilarious. And it's witty. It's fast action. There's a whole lot of pace to it. The guy's an anti-hero. You never really know whether he's going to follow through. There's a whole bunch of violence. It's just such a different spin on the action genre.
Okay, and it's called Happy.
It's called Happy.
Where would I watch it?
Netflix.
Right.
Well, do yourself a favor.
Not Disney Plus.
Do yourself a favor. Not Disney Plus. No way. It wouldn't even get a look in on Disney Plus, even though there is an animated character in it. There's so much quirk about it. It's got that Coen Brothers kind of quirk about it with an animation in it. You could almost see. I don't know. I'm just hooked on it at the moment, and I just want people to watch it. The other thing that I'm hooked on at the moment is what's it called? It's an app. It's a basketball app. Home Court. The Home Court.
Oh, yeah.
The Home Court app. My kids are going nuts for it. If your kid's a basketballer, you set your phone up and it gives them training sessions. It's just brilliant. That's fantastic. And I've just gone back and started listening. My third one on my playlist, just started listening to a whole bunch of Australian hip hop. I've been listening to Bliss and Esso, Earth Boy, gone back through the old Hilltop Hood stuff. Bloody enjoying it. So there's my three.
Awesome. Joel.
All right. Well, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So if we're going to talk about apps, I'm doing this Woodshop app, which is basically...
How to chop down cheese with the yeast?
No, it's funnier than that. It's a wood turning app. Basically, it just spins this bit of wood and has a shape that it wants you to cut out, and then you choose your chisel.
Wow.
It's great. Do you know what the other thing I've actually been using that's not laughable, that's quite helpful, is the Calm app. It's just called Calm, and it's got a bunch of meditations. Most of it wants you to buy, but there's a heap of free stuff. Now, if you are ever having trouble getting to sleep, you go, don't stop laughing.
You play a good 30 minutes of wood shop
It's still-
and turn some timber.
It's
Well,
definitely
and then
calm, not come.
All right, now I'm actually I'm going to try and play this for you. Stephen Fry reads
For
to.
tonight's sleep story,
Can you hear that?
travel to
Yeah.
the south of France.
Oh my god, you go to
I'm
sleep to
Stephen
this?
Fry,
Oh, it's amazing.
and I'll be your guide as we meander lazily through the lavender fields and
Does it feel
sleepy
like you're going to bed with Stephen Fry?
If you are not asleep by the third sentence, I promise you that's been really working. Now, if
That is the most bizarre. That is the most bizarre ever.
it's real. The only issue is that I wake up with a sore ear because I might have rolled onto my earpod. Stephen Fry has gone too hard on my ear.
Oh dear. That's the most bizarre playlist ever.
Yeah, well,
You're going to back it up, aren't you?
I've revisited Rage Against the Machine the other morning. I knew that I wanted to listen to them in the car, and I quickly made a playlist of just 3 of my favourite albums and threw my favourite songs on, and I must have looked like I was either having road rage or in need of medical help the whole way to work.
Rage Against the Machine makes sense.
Oh, it was so good. So that's always fun to revisit. And you guys put me onto The Witcher.
Yeah, how's it going?
Oh, it's phenomenal. Maybe having the heads up of the time change
Yeah.
it didn't bother me too much. I kind of looked and went, oh yeah. I had trouble working out if I was fast forwarding or rewinding, but it didn't bother me. And then it just freaking finished on me. Only 9 episodes. I went, oh, that's not what usually happens at the end.
No.
And then I realised, I've completed the season, and I was really sad.
Oh, do you know what? I still haven't watched it. I watched the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I went, I don't know about this. Do you suggest
I love the fantasy genre.
push through?
Yeah, because the Monster Hunter part of it isn't a big part. You know what I mean? Like that first 5 minutes, he fights that big thing in the swamp.
Yeah.
There's not that many scenes like that. It's a bit like, you know how people talk about Game of Thrones and they go, oh, the supernatural stuff, I can't deal with it. And like Game of Thrones isn't really a supernatural thing. Like it's got that element, but it's not really about that. Same thing with The Witcher. There's a heap of other stuff that happens that's not monster hunting.
Seriously, when you're done with Witcher and when you're done with
Stephen Fry.
When you're done with... No, you'll never be done with Stephen Fry. You have a special relationship, clearly. Have a go at this, Happy. Like, honestly, it's just a unique thing. Have a crack at it. I reckon you'll like it.
Alrighty.
Will do.
I think we're done.
All right, fellas.
See you, boys.
See ya.
See ya.